Okay, so let's talk about intermittent fasting. You can't escape it, right? It has absolutely taken the wellness world by storm. But with all that noise online, what's the real story? We're going to cut through the social media buzz and get straight to the science.
And you've definitely seen the claims. People on social media are calling it a magic weight loss method, something that just melts fat away with almost zero effort. I mean, that sounds incredible. But it also sounds a little too good to be true, doesn't it?
So that's the million-dollar question we're tackling in this explainer. Is intermittent fasting a legit strategy for losing fat, or is it just the latest health fad that's going to be gone in a year? Let's find out.
To really get to the bottom of this, we've got to start by unpacking all that buzz. It's time to separate what's fact from what's fiction.
First things first, what even is intermittent fasting? Let's break down the fundamentals.
You know, at its core, it's surprisingly simple. Most diets tell you what you should or shouldn't eat. IF is different. It's not about the food itself, it's all about the clock. It's focused entirely on when you eat, creating these cycles of eating and, well, not eating.
And there are a few popular ways people do this. The one you hear about most is probably the 16-8 method. Super simple. You fast for 16 hours and have an 8-hour window to get your meals in. So, for example, you might only eat between noon and 8 p.m. Then you've got the 5-2 method, where you eat normally 5 days a week, but on 2 non-consecutive days, you really pull back your calories. And then there's alternate day fasting, which, yeah, is exactly what it sounds like. You eat one day, you fast the next.
Okay, so you might be wondering, how can just changing my eating times make such a big difference? It seems way too simple, right? Well, the real action is happening inside your body. There's some pretty cool science that gets kicked into gear when you stop eating for a while.
So here's the play-by-play. First, when you fast, your insulin levels drop. That's like a green light for your body to start burning its stored fat for fuel. After about 12 hours, you might even dip into a state of mild ketosis, where your body really flips the switch to using fat as its main energy source. On top of that, your growth hormone gets a nice little boost, which is great because it helps you hold on to your muscle mass. And, maybe the most obvious part? When you only have 8 hours to eat, you just naturally tend to eat fewer calories. It's simple math.
Okay, that's the biology, but what does all that mean for you in the real world? What are the actual benefits that the science can back up?
Well, the research is actually pretty solid on a few key things. For starters, study after study shows it's a really effective tool for weight loss, right on par with just straight-up counting calories. But here's a huge bonus. IF seems to be better at helping you keep your muscle. That means more of the weight you're dropping is actually fat, which is exactly what you want. And as if that's not enough, it's also linked to better metabolic health markers, like cholesterol and blood sugar. But of course, with anything this popular, there's a ton of bad information floating around. So let's switch gears and play a little Mythbusters. It's time to clear up some of the biggest misconceptions about IF.
Okay, myth number 1. You've heard this, I'm sure of it. This idea that fasting is going to crank your metabolism up to 11 and turn you into some kind of fat-burning furnace.
Yeah, not quite. The reality is a little less exciting. While there might be a small, modest boost to your metabolism, it is not dramatic. At the end of the day, fat loss still comes down to that same old fundamental truth, calories in versus calories out. That principle is still king. All right, next up is a really big one, maybe the most dangerous myth of all. It's this idea that your eating window is a free-for-all, a magical 8 hours where you can just go to town on pizza, ice cream, whatever you want, and it just doesn't count. Nope, sorry to burst that bubble, but that is flat out wrong. Calories always count. If you use your eating window to binge on junk food and eat more calories than your body burns, guess what? You're not going to lose fat. It's physics, not magic. And for our last myth, this idea that intermittent fasting is the only way. The one true path to fat loss, and that every other diet out there is just inferior. That's not right either. Look, is intermittent fasting a powerful tool? Absolutely. For some people, it is a total game changer, but it's just one tool in the toolbox. The absolute best approach for fat loss, and this is so important, is the one you can actually stick with. Sustainability is everything. So we've looked at the science, we've busted the myths. What's the big picture here? What's the real, balanced bottom line on all this?
I think a really helpful way to put it all into perspective is to see how intermittent fasting compares to some of the other big diets you hear about, like keto or just old school calorie counting.
And when you lay it all out like this, the key differences really pop. Intermittent fasting, as we've said, is all about when you eat, which gives you a lot of flexibility. The keto diet is all about what you eat, basically no carbs, which is pretty low flexibility. And classic calorie restriction focuses on how much you eat.
But you see the common thread, right? They're all just different roads to the same destination, creating a calorie deficit. They just give you a different set of rules to get there.
So here's the final verdict. Is intermittent fasting a legitimate, science-backed tool for fat loss? Yes, 100%. But is it a magic bullet? Definitely not. Its real power is that it's a simple framework that helps many people control their calorie intake and get some helpful hormonal benefits.
But here is the biggest trap to avoid. Thinking the fasting window gives you a free pass to ignore nutrition. The absolute best results, the ones people are really raving about, happen when you pair the timing of IF with a diet full of high-quality, nutrient-rich foods.
And that leaves us with one final thought. We've seen the science, but ultimately, what makes a diet the best? Is it the one with the most research papers published about it? Or is it simply the one that fits so well into your life that you can actually follow it consistently? Something to think about.